Alright, so you guys should be able to see me and my screen right now. Alright. What's up, everybody? Today I'm going to be using my Wacom tablet to get a lot of this stuff done, knocked down or whatever. And yeah, we can start to begin our sculpt. Assisting me today, I have my sculpting PowerPoint that I gave to you guys, so you guys should have that as well. And yeah, let's begin. Okay, let me minimize this. So let me show you kind of where I am right now. So right now we've got this going on for us. Right, that's where we left off last week, and what we need to do is just kind of start refining our sculpt a little more. This is our poly groups, and with the cool thing about poly groups is if you can isolate them based on all the poly groups that are created here. So if I wanted to, I can isolate just the head. Right, and these are poly groups that are created automatically, so yeah, it's a pretty nice feature. All right, and also you can mask them out individually and then do your own kind of poly grouping. But these are the base ones that it gives you as you're creating your mesh. As you created the Z spheres, if you use that Z sphere method, if you didn't use the Z sphere method, then you're probably not going to get this. But since I did use that Z sphere method, this is what I got. All right, so the next thing I want to do now is I'm going to divide it one more time. All right, so I'm going to go BMV, and then I'm just going to start using my move tool a little more. Let's take this off. And if you guys remember, in my texture tab, right, I have my opacity that I can set for this guy. All right, so I'm just gonna reduce the opacity a little bit, and then this way I can start to go in and do what I need to do. All right, and I've still got my symmetry on, so I'm gonna start moving this guy out a little bit, right, just to match the silhouette of what I see in my reference, right? And this guy is very skeletal, right, in his look, so I want to really capture that. All right, so I can go to BCB, which is my clay buildup tool, and then reduce the scale, reduce the size of that, right? If you guys can't see what's going on, then you can go right back into your texture tab right up there, and then you can maybe increase the opacity a little bit, right? So it's more faint. All right, so now I'm just gonna suck that in a little bit. Right, I've got my boom, and then I've got my mouth shape here. I'm gonna shift to smooth it back. Got the nose kind of protruding right here, right, and my intensity might be way too much, right, as you guys can tell. So you can still shift to smooth it back in. You reduce my intensity a little bit more. All right, shift to smooth. All right, use my clay buildup tool right there. Maybe my smooth's a little too much, so I might reduce the smooth by half. a little more than half, so. All right. Shift to smooth. Temporal frontal lobe area. Just kind of going back and forth. And I told you guys you're gonna have to go through, you know, the ugly phase for your sculpts, and then you'll get somewhere where you're like, okay, it doesn't look absolutely terrible anymore. You know, so I'm gonna go BMV. That's my move tool a little bit. Use that to move some of these points in. Shift to smooth. Use this to kind of move this out. BCB, back to my clay buildup. Alt. I'm just using this to kind of sink in the eyes a little more. All right. And remember, you can always dock, you know, your texture tab here, so you don't have to keep going back and forth here. So I can go here, maybe reduce the opacity a little more, right? Make sure I'm hitting those landmarks, right? And then just sculpting it out. All right. And I've got my mouth shape here. Shift to smooth. And build it up a little bit. Chin, right? And then, all right, just kind of hitting those landmarks. All right. And build up the ear a little bit more. Okay. And his chin is a little pointier too, so I might want to go in and, you know, he has very sharp features because, you know, because he's skin and bones, all his features are kind of sunken in and, you know, melted back onto his flesh. You know, he's got very low body fat percentage, you know. So that's what I'm dealing with in my sculpt. All right. Alright, just moving it over just to see what I'm getting. Alright, I might want to start sculpting some of his expression. Alright. Okay. I'm looking at my poly count now to increase this opacity just so I see what's going on a little bit better. Alright, and I've got decent geo in here. Alright, rotated them a little bit this way. Alright, so BMV, that's my move tool again. Alright, maybe I'm gonna pull this chin out a little bit. Right. Let me shift to kind of smooth that out. BCB. All right. Just getting that. Shift, boom, shift to smooth it back out. Alright, and then Alt. Alright, he's got very bony features, so you know this guy, you know, you wanna nail all the spots. Right, I'm gonna use the BMV, right? BMV, that's the move tool. BMV. And then just kind of move this guy in a little bit like so. All right. Just fixing his mandible a little bit, you know. He's definitely got a very pronounced mandible. His jaw is very, 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 very pronounced. All right. Making sure I'm nailing that. And it's important to nail it when the mesh is super low like this. All right. Because if you nail it at this stage, when you get to the next step, those forms are already in there, right? So you're just building on top of your foundation, you know? So that's what I'm doing, just building on top of my foundation. I'm not going crazy fast. I'm not, you know, I'm just kind of, all right, and then, all right, right in here, boom. You've got the zygomatic arch. And these all kind of meet at the ear canal, ear hole, right there. Just trying to follow those same principles that I've been trying to, you know, teaching you guys this whole time. I'm gonna grab this part of the ear a little bit, maybe pull it out, and then let's move them in place a little better, and then just grab this point, pull it out, shift to smooth it a little bit. All right, another thing you can do is, if you don't want to do that, is if you've got something, a piece that you want to just isolate real quick, control right there, right? I'm going to paint a mask. Right now I've got this little earpiece masked out a little bit. All right, and then I'm going to invert my mask by hitting control. And now whenever I try to make my move here, boom, it's going to you just affect that piece of the ear, right? All right. And then this little piece kind of juts out a little bit. All right. So this is the process. You just going slow and steady, but you want to win the race. Right, and I'm still doing it at this really low resolution, just because I know if I start to get, you know, high, and I'm trying to get that message into you guys that you want to work super low at first, and then as you go along, you increase that. Make this guy a little bigger just so you guys can see it. Alright, I might want to, you guys can see, sharpen these up a little bit. Alright, now I'm going to try to focus on the neck area, and then, you know, what I can do is, right, just going to do that, mask that out. Right, the reason is now I want to be able to just affect the shoulder kind of area. All right, just gonna move this guy in place, boom, and then start to move these guys down. I'm gonna maybe increase the size of my move brush a little bit here, and start to use this to just do big moves. to smooth. Oh, that's a little too big. Let's increase the opacity a little bit, just so I can see. And the next thing I'll probably do is just go into my sculpting brush, right, to then help me kind of define some of these shapes a little bit better. So shift, smoothing it out, right, smoothing it out, all right. So I'm gonna go BCB, right, and then I can start using that to then, you know, shift, smooth, smooth it out a little bit. All right, his clavicle. Very, very prominent. All right, whoops. I'm gonna remove some of this because this muscle really comes from the back of the ear. All right, you guys know that. Shift, smooth it back down. All right, shift, smooth it back down. And I'm just trying to get the underlying, right, the underlying shapes in here for some of these muscles. All right, I can move them as I go. This will be the spine. All right, but I first need, so BMV, and I can start using that to move a lot of this guy's stuff in place. Let me get so I've got some visual reference for torso, back that I want to rely on so that I'm getting these pieces correct. All right, so it's important to to do that for yourself and keep these on hand whenever you guys are sculpting, because it'll help you generally try to put these, and you can see that he's got like this kind of spiny thing that happens on the outside. That's all fine and good, but I still want to get the general shape correct for the rib cage, how the pectoral and all that stuff works. I don't need to go into detail crazy, like I don't need to go crazy detail into it, but I need to generally get those kind of landmarks appropriate. All right. All right, I want to get those landmarks a little more correct. Go BCB. All right, and I still haven't. You guys notice I still haven't gone up in resolution yet. I'm taking a little bit more time to do that, just cause just because it's important to. So I'm going to try to put in the clavicle, the sternum. So clavicle goes to, it's like the shoulder blade, right? And his is a little exaggerated, right? You know that. And then you know that the pectoral muscle comes from there, and then it attaches to the ulna, right? You got this guy that kind of goes like this, and it attaches, right, to that part of the arm. You got the sternum underneath, right? So we're just getting those generally there. It doesn't have to be perfect, but you want to have those kind of markers in place for yourself, you know, just so you're like, all right, I'm nailing it. And what happens is when you start doing that kind of stuff is you will start to notice, okay, this one looks weird, this muscle looks too elongated, this this part of the body is in the wrong place, right? And it helps you train your own eye to notice those things, right? And then, oops, let's go back to draw. Put this guy back in place. And another thing I can do is if I want to, I can lock the camera here so I can't move, right? This is kind of nice to, whenever I'm trying to work and I don't want the camera to move anymore, I like the position, right? I can, and I'm only gonna work from the front, right? And then I can unlock the camera, rotate it, lock the camera again, do the same thing, right? So just little tidbits, little tools for you guys to kind of use to get your stuff going and not feel like you're gonna drive yourself crazy. All right, so I can lock this, and then remember that your rib cage, right? It's kind of got like, because of the way the abdominal is. Let's unlock this. Let me move this guy a little bit better into place. All right, I'm gonna lock the camera again. Right, and then you've got the sternum that comes down, and then the rib cage does this interesting shape as it kind of wraps around towards the back. All right, connecting from the sternum out, and then the pectoral, right, your pec muscles kind of, you know, then attach itself from the sternum onto your ulna. And then you've got your delts, right? Right, and then there's just like that group of muscle, right? And I'm still working from the front view now, but I'm gonna want to rotate to make sure that, you know, I'm doing the service that the justice that it needs to be done. Right, I'm just roughing these in, right? Roughing these in because, you know, obviously he's got clothes on, so like you don't want to go too crazy unless you're, you know, unless your guy has a detailed kind of anatomy like that, or that you have to kind of stay true to. But you want to kind of put these in, and then whenever you put clothes on, whenever you do anything else, it's gonna feel and look much more accurate. All right. And, you know, you got some abs to go on top of there. All right. And you guys know abs are never like square. Right, like that's not how abs work. Just move these down. They have their own kind of shape language. Right. Then you've got kind of these little wings that happen here. Just move this back down. Increase the opacity a little bit, just so I can work on some more of this stuff. Right. So let's see, I'm gonna go BDS, that's my DamStandard tool. Then I'm just gonna use that to kind of draw. And then we've got, you know, our external obliques that happen. Obviously they go all the way out, they fan out. Right, you see that it looks super rough, right? Like but that's the thing, it's supposed to, you know, it's not supposed to be super perfect yet. You're just roughing in the massings, of the muscles. You're roughening the, you know, the different pieces, and then after that you can go in, smooth this out. We've got our lats, right? The biggest muscle in the back, the latissimus dorsi. All right. We got some muscle that happens there. And then part of the oblique that you can see from the front side. All right. All right, then, you know, you want to kind of, you got your triceps, the brachialis muscle, you know, BCB, kind of build these up a little bit. All right. And remember, there's, you know, there's a bunch of different things that's going on in here. And, you know, if you're getting kind of this rough look, right, you don't like the way the brush is doing it, you can always try the clay. There's another clay brush, so BCT, that's the clay tubes, or you might prefer the clay tubes to the clay buildup brush, you know. Clay tubes, clay buildup, you know, whatever you feel most comfortable with, giving you the best result. Right. Just kind of roughing these in a little bit, roughing them in, roughing them in. Smooth this out a little more. Right, smooth, smooth. Just gonna smooth this out. And I'm gonna probably get to a point where I need to re-topologize this guy a little bit, just because, you know, I'm gonna start to get, this kind of looks a little lumpy. Fix this. subdivision. And start to smooth some of this guy out a little bit more. Let's lock this in place for a second. BCT, let's use the clay tubes. Alright, and this is all made possible because I built that foundation a little bit. Just a little bit, making sure. I'm gonna do Z-remesh it a little bit. Shift to smooth. Alright, then BDS. Man, this can help me really start to define some of these. Alright. Alright, he's kind of got like very, very like, BCT. You can see he's got like super loose kind of skin going on too. So like you're gonna, the character like this, you're gonna want to kind of emphasize that a little more. Right. Just kind of going back and forth with the smooth tool. Right. I build up, I smooth, I build up, I smooth, I build up, I smooth. That's pretty much the general workflow. You know, you're building up a little bit, you're smoothing out a little bit. It's like kind of working with real clay. You know, and I'm pretty sure people who use real clay are like, no, the frick, it's not. But yeah, it's the closest we can get to working with real clay. I'll say that then. Reduce the intensity of my DamStandard brush. Smooth these back out. And I'm just gonna draw a line for the as you guys can see, it's starting to take a little bit more shape, but it takes, you know, it takes time. It takes building. You know, you got to keep building it and building it out, and you know, giving yourself time to do this. You can't rush these kind of processes, guys. You've got to build it over time. You've got to build it one little layer at a time. You know, and you know, people make it, you know, a little more than it is. Right, but it's not too complicated once you start getting the hang of it. All right, and if you make a mistake, you can always erase it, you know? Right, that's another thing that people I see that are scared of. It's like you're scared to make a mistake. Make a bunch of mistakes. You know, like this is the moment in life to make mistakes. Like this is, you guys have a perfect opportunity. You have an excuse. I'm still a freaking student. Like, yo, it's gonna look like trash, but I'm putting my best effort into it. You know, that's what I think. That's people care more about that than, you know, than a finished product sometimes. You know, like. I think it's the Japanese proverb is, you know, fall 7 times, get up 8 times. You know, like it's okay. It's okay for it to look like shit for a long time. It's perfectly fine, right? But at least you're trying. At least you're putting in that effort, right? You get more satisfaction about when you finally get it right than, you know, just kind of not trying, not giving yourself the best chance to succeed, you know? Right, and I don't want to go too crazy into the muscle, like, and I feel like I'm already kind of falling into the muscular weeds right now, because, you know, like I said, look at the character, like you see no musculature on him, right? Like you can't tell where any of that is, right? You just want to get these kind of proportions in the right place. So I might be even going too far into the weeds, but I like to kind of get the general proportion of the character correct, right? Like the most of the detail that I should now start focusing on is the face, right? Like the face is going to be where, you know, this is it's going to be the bread and butter. The face, kind of the neck area here, where, you know, you're getting a lot of this this kind of like melty, fleshy kind of thing going on, is where I should really start to put my time into. You know, he's got these kind of like little, I'm looking at these things right here where he's got these little like little, it's like fleshy fleshy bits going on, and then he's got this kind of deep pit in there. So like I'm trying to follow those cues, those markers in the model, right? And then you can see that he's also got these other pieces in the back where the muscle itself has kind of collapsed. The skin is super loose and it's going into it, right? And the way to you know, kind of accentuate that's what I should be focusing on, and I'm gonna start doing that, you know, because I kind of, because you guys are students, I kind of focus on trying to get you guys to understand the anatomy, where these muscles are, and how everything fits together. So I'm going to try to kind of incorporate more of that into it, where, you know, where you guys kind of learn more. But like if I was doing this for like a professional project, you know, I'd kind of loosely get all that shit in and just start stabbing at, you know, the rest of it, because unless like this character takes off his jacket at some point in time, well, it's not gonna be necessary, you know. So that's one of those things that even I have to fight that urge, you know. So now maybe I start, you know, kind of sculpting some of these little pieces in there, you know. Let me increase the intensity, right, of this guy, right? And then I want to start maybe putting in some of these kind of barbed wiry kind of, these kind of barbed wire kind of outfit in there. And it could be sculpted pieces, or what I might do is, you know, use an extracted mesh kind of technique, where I'm going to extract these pieces, you know. You see what I'm saying? Like if what I would do is I would go back a little bit further, like so. Maybe increase my transparency. Reduce the transparency. I guess I misspoke that. But, you know, oops. And then start to, right? So maybe I turn off symmetry, right? And then I would start to, right? He's got a barbed wire piece here, another piece there, right? Another piece here, 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 right? And then I would extract these guys as part of the mesh. Like I would turn these guys into extractions. Maybe even go a little further, just so if I need to tuck it under the jacket, it works a little better. All right, just go a little bit further, you know. So this. Then we can turn back the opacity again, and then let's see what our let's go to our subtools. Then you go to extract. This might not be the best. Right, what's going on right now is this isn't very good, because I need more resolution. So this is something I'd probably wait to do a little later on when I got better resolution, but I'm gonna work on just getting these underlying shapes in. That was just kind of showing you guys the future a little bit, like what's gonna happen. All right, so now let's go back to the face a little bit more to kind of flesh out what's happening with homie's head a little bit more. So let's go BCT once again, and now I can kind of start to put in some more of his features here. Actually, let's go X. All right, bring back my symmetry tool. All right, maybe it's kind of got like a nose that points down a little bit. Right, and then so. And as you guys can see, I don't have a lot of geometry to work with, so I'm fighting the geo right now. But that's okay, right? Like that's fine for now, right? That's fine. I don't want to go. I still don't want to go too crazy on the geo right now. So maybe I do BDS, right? And then I'm gonna maybe boom, like so, just to get that mouth shape out of there. Right, I'm still maybe cutting a little bit into this. Right, he's got these very pronounced wrinkles on his forehead. Right, cutting into the ear a little bit more. I'm just using the DamStandard brush. Somebody made this brush. I'm pretty sure, I don't want to say the guy's name is Damien, but I don't know, it might have been. But it wasn't originally in ZBrush, and then they put it in. All right, so now let's turn this guy around a little bit. BCT, right, the mouth shape, remember, it's kind of like an orange, so I like to kind of think about it, you know. So I'm pushing this geo BCT, actually BMV, which is the move tool again, right? Just kind of pushing this guy as far as it can go. And as you can see, you see this really fine line. I'm just trying to, you know, just trying to get those in. So now I'm just gonna go from there. All right. Let's do a quick Z remesher. I'm gonna use the same amount, right? And then I'm gonna Z remesh it, the entire mesh. Give it a second to think. And I should get, yeah, better topology for my model, right? Because what it's doing is it's taking the original and it's redistributing it, right? So now I've got something a little cleaner, something that works a little bit better, all right? With what I'm trying to do. So now I can go continue with my process of BCT, right? Building up a little bit here, shift to smooth it back out. BMV, kind of move, right? Just kind of got this very wide open mouth that we're gonna have to address at some point in time. All right. All right. So I've got my zygomatic arch here. I'm gonna wanna kind of get that guy nailed in. Oops, nailed into place. It's kind of very pronounced face, very distinctive. All right, very distinct. He's got sunken in, kind of hollow cheeks. Getting those in. And he's still got a little bit of muscle that you see in there, right? So I'm trying to get all of those things into the BDS, right? Making sure that you see how angular it is. I'm really trying to kind of emphasize that description, that look that he has. All right. And that's what you're trying to do, is emphasize, look at your reference, right? I'm going to do alt, and then that kind of gives me that angular, but I might do it down here. There you go. And shift, smooth it back out. All right. just turning around to see what we've got here, right? Might want to then go back in here, right under the mandible, to define that just a little more. Just define, using my DamStandard tool to find that, then shift, smoothing it back out, creating these angular planes in our sculpt. All right, so I might want to start, maybe add my eyes in right now, because I don't have the eyes. But let's see, let's cut this in. All right, BMV. All right, I can move this back a little bit further, just so now we can see how much of that I need to move around or put in a different place. So let's go into our texture. Remember, I docked it over here. It's also over here. Right, I don't want you guys to think I'm just kind of pulling this shit out of nowhere. But that guy is like right, the texture, I just boom, and then I dragged it over there. Right. I'm just gonna reduce this a little bit, and then go like so, and then I'm gonna lock the camera once again, and now what I want to do is really move these pieces, right, using the move tool, right, noticing where the jawline is, how the mouth is kind of open a little bit, right? And I'll fix it, you know, like I'll do it here, and then the intention is whenever I get back into the other view, I can then fix it some more there. All right? So now let's go back to opacity. And then I can, use this to move this guy. Use this. And because it's concept art, you might have to take a few liberties. All right. So BCT again. Now I can gonna use that to, oops. All right. Use that to just do a little bit more sculpting. That bottom. All right, now I've kind of stretched this geo super far. You can see how deformed it is, right? And I can go right back into my Z remesher. I've got it still set to the same, and I'm gonna Z remesh it out so you guys can watch what it does. All right, it's just gonna redistribute that mesh around once again, and now I can eat more easily, right? Kind of do that to the mesh, right? Eat much more easily because now my geometry is a little more conformed to what I needed to do. All right. So when I work, you know, I kind of work around, just building different pieces up. All right, just gonna maybe build up the nose a little bit. The nose a little bit. Right. Very angry expression, right? This guy's obviously not having the best day, right? So we want to emphasize that, right? If there's a bad day filter, you want to turn it on, right? Like that. Just jumping around. There you go. Turn it around a little bit here. Right. He's got the scowl going. You want to emphasize that. Right, and he's got a little bit of space, right, in between there. So you want to kind of get that. All right. So now, and his nose is, you can look at the shape of his nose. It's kind of straight up and down. It's got a little bulge in the middle. So you want to do that as well. All right. So you're looking. You're trying to see. You're trying to find these little things that make the character the character. Right. So BMV. I'm going to use that to kind of, my move tool, right, to kind of emphasize those things just a little bit more. All right, just a little bit more. Nostrils kind of flared open a little bit. Cool, right? That's cool. That's kind of what we want. I'm going to use that the move tool again to, you know, start to emphasize our character's personality a little more. All right, angry, scowling, you know. Shift to smooth this bad boy out. And then I'm going to use this to kind of move these down a little bit. And I haven't gone up in geometry, but I have remeshed the model a few times, right? Using the same amount of geometry. And remember, all it's doing is it's redistributing how this geometry is based on the sculpting that I've done. All right. So BCT, I might do a few more things and then do the remesh again. Shift, smooth this out, BDS, all right. Boom, like so. Boom. Because you're going to imagine I'm going to put some teeth in and then we're going to sculpt, right? We're going to use the sculpting tools to sculpt in the teeth and stuff like that. All right. Shift to smooth. Shift to smooth. Shift to smooth. And then I'm going to hit the Z remesh again. Alright, so maybe I've gone too far. Alright, I'm going to divide it and then I'm going to remesh it. Okay. Go BCT once again. All right. See, I've got this little weirdo BMV. That's the move tool. I'm just going to use that to kind of pull this guy out a little bit. Right, and don't forget to really rely on your reference. Right, so I'm gonna pull this lower jaw in just a little bit. just a little bit as a whole, like that. Giving my upper jaw more room to do its thing, because you know the teeth are gonna hang over the upper jaw, so you want to kind of emphasize that. And now I'm going to use this to kind of pull my nose like so, right? Just a little bit. And then BCT, T, B, okay, C and T, my clay tubes. And I'm going to use that to draw. Shift to smooth. Shift to smooth it out. Alright. And my nose, this nose is a lot bigger, so I'm going to go BDS. And I'm going to use that to kind of carve it in a little bit more. Bring that in. Right? And as you guys see, right? Smooth, boom, smooth, boom, like that. Alright, so now I can use this again, the DamStandard, to really start to build this guy up. Alright. There are IMM body parts that you can use, right? So like I think I should be able to append like said BI, and then there's parts. Right, so there's parts that you can use. I don't know if do they have teeth in here? I don't think so. BI. Maybe it's not in here. Maybe I was thinking of something else. That's fine, we can create our own. I'll show you guys how to do that as well. All right. But first thing, let me append, so BCT, go back to our clay tubes brush. I'm going to append the spheres, right? Zoom out a little bit. And then I'll take my sphere and I can scale, oops, I'm going to scale our sphere down. Scale. Move this guy up, scale, move this guy up, pull, and oops. I don't know, I think it's gonna crash. It didn't crash. Alright, cool. Move. Alright. Scale. Then move. Alright, rotate a little bit. I can zoom in. Move this guy into this kind of area. Right here. And what this kind of helps me do see is I need to kind of pull part of this nasal bone, this brow bone up a little bit, just so I'm getting better clearance, right? So I might need to pull just that entire piece at the top right here, just forward a little bit. So I'm just gonna do draw BMV, move tool, and then use that, like I made it ginormous. I'm going to use that to pull right, this part of the forehead forward, right? Doing the same for the forehead part of his head. Just pulling, pulling, pulling. All right, BDS. All right, we've got there's like a sphenoid bone here, the parietal, the occipital back here, temporal bone back here somewhere where it meets with the zygomatic arch. You know, so let me actually kind of draw that in so you guys can kind of visualize what I'm talking about. All right. We've got kind of like there's like a flat area of the skull. The skull is a little more square, more flat than we like to imagine. We think it's like a sphere, but it's more of a cube, right? That's what I've kind of noticed, and I've been kind of learning over time. Is like the skull has more of a cube shape to it than we think. So BMV again, I'm gonna use this to kind of move this forehead bone a little bit further up. Right, you know, Cro-Magnon man kind of shape to it. Right. Right, and as you guys can see, like the longer you just gotta keep working it. Use your reference. The reference is your friend. I'm telling y'all. BCT. Don't skimp on using reference. Don't think you know what it looks like. Don't think you got, you know, I got it. I've seen it before. I got it. You know, even your own hand. You know, you'll be surprised how much you couldn't sculpt your own hand if I gave you 10 hours without looking at your hand. You wouldn't be able to do it perfectly. You'd miss some spots. You'd get the fingers wrong, how long the fingers are. You get a lot of things wrong, you know. So use reference. Use lots and lots of reference. It is your friend. All right. So now I've got. Maybe I need to reduce the clay buildups. Let me reduce a little more. There we go. So I want to build up, but not that much, not that intense. All right. So you know, just keep hammering away, keep sculpting away. Time is at 1:14 iron. We got like 15 more minutes. So for these next parts, let's go back to the eye. All right. So we've got our eye here. So we're gonna use a Z plugin called Subtool Master, and then we're going to use mirror on the x-axis, and then you can do two things. You can merge it into one subtool or append it as a new subtool. I'm going to leave it as merge. I want it on the x-axis, right? If you do Y, it's going to do top. If you do Z, it's going to do side by side. So I want it on the x-axis, and I'm going to hit OK, right? It does all that operation for me, right, in one go. So now if I hit X on the keyboard, you can see that I have I still retain my symmetrical kind of shape. So I've got symmetry set up, and now I can really start to get our guy looking closer to what he's supposed to look like. All right. So now let me do transparency here, and then I can use the move tool, maybe scale the eyes down a little bit, move them, whoops, that's rotation, just move it there a little bit, and then I can turn off the transparency. All right. Oops. I don't want it to freeze or crash, so I'm gonna wait, give it a second to do this thing. All right, let's see. There we go. Sometimes ZBrush likes to crash, so we don't want that to happen. Okay. I'm gonna use the move tool here. Just gonna draw. Right. So what I'm looking at right now is I'm looking at this mouth, right? I'm noticing that the teeth go, and he's got like this kind of flap of skin that kind of comes over the top of it, and I wanna get that in my sculpt. All right. So to do that, right, I already kind of have a little piece of it here. I'm gonna use the clay tubes, right, and we're gonna use that. Let's Alt, and I'm using that to switch back to my mesh for the character, and then I'm just gonna use that piece to kind of bring it down a little bit like so, smoothing it out. And if you want to help yourself, you can use the DamStandard to draw it in first, and then do that. So I'm gonna go CT, and then use this to, whoops, no, BDS, sorry. And then use that a little bit to kind of give myself that, and then maybe draw. So I'm getting a little bit of that, right? The layering effect of, oh, okay, got muscle, skin laying on top of each other, right? And then this kind of goes in there. And I can use the move tool again to then start to push our character's mouth further in. All right. I don't want to go too far in the mouth, because what's really going to start to affect it is when I get the teeth in there as well. So you really want that to work well together. Right, as you guys can see, I'm moving from all different angles, trying to see what's going on. This guy kind of got a gummy smile going on right now. That's fine. That's perfectly fine. We're knocking in the muscles. We're knocking in the shapes that we're seeing. All right, BDS. All right. Reduce the size a little bit. Here's another one right there. Right. Very angular, very angular kind of shape language that he's got going on. All right. Then smoothing it out, smoothing it back out. If I hit L, I can get my lazy mouse and go stroke, and then lazy mouse, turn on the lazy mouse, maybe increase the smoothness. I'm going to reduce the steps, maybe increase the radius to about 5, and then so now I'm going to go back and increase the smoothing to 10, just so that I've got more of a clean stroke going there. Then boom. BCT. Actually, BMV. Maybe angle this nose piece a little bit more. BDS. I'm going to turn off my lazy mouse with the keyboard shortcut L. And then BCT. Let's do a little more clay build up here. And at some point you can see, like, when I start get like a little bit of texture stretching going too much that I can't really control, I'm going to want to go back and remesh it again. All right. BDS. BCB. BDS. Just gonna smooth this out a little bit. And his eyes are a lot more sunken in, but this works for now. BCT. All right. Just gonna giving our guy much better. Shift to smooth. Alt to do the opposite. All right. You might want to add a little bit more right here. And shift, smooth it back out. A little more, shift, smooth it back out. All right. Okay, we've got to a decent stopping point for today. I'm going to do maybe one or two more things. BDS. Just getting myself ready for some future stuff that's probably gonna have to happen. Smooth. BCB. Shift. Smooth. Right. I'm going to kind of put it back on our sculpt here to make sure that, you know, we're on the right track. Because sometimes when you're sculpting and you're not really like looking at the reference, you can really start to miss some of the landmarks. So you want to make sure that you're going back and forth, right? And to reduce our opacity again, right? Making sure right. Boom. And the first thing I notice is maybe our eyes a little lower. You know, this guy. I might be a little too low and too big, so we might want to move some of this up a little bit. I think I was using the Buildup brush, BMV, instead of this. All right. Alright, so that is going to be where we stop for today. It is 1:30. Next class, we will add the teeth, then kind of continue the sculpt from there. Yeah, and you can see we're even getting better resolution now. So like maybe I'll do one last Z remesh to get much better topology, and then we will go from there next class. Does anybody have any questions for me so far?
Assignment.
What was that?
Do we have an assignment?
Yeah, the assignment is to get your own concepts, so we can, the final is going to be, we're going to do what we did the first week of class, which is sculpt a bust. So post like 10 different references, and then I'll pick the one that you're going to work on. So post your the references that you found of, either you can generate it using some sort of AI, or you can find somebody on conceptart.org or ArtStation. I don't even think conceptart.org is a thing anymore. ArtStation or an artist that you like that you want to do their, do a character or concept that they've made. If you have your own concepts, but I need 10 to choose from, then I'll go and select from that list that you provide, and we'll go from there. Sound good?
Yeah, we just make our own.
You can make your own, but you still gotta post at least 10 of them.
Okay.
Yep. And then whenever you posted them, I will let you know which one I approve. So number them 1 through 10, and then I'll choose the number that I approve of. All right. Sounds bueno. All right, guys. That is it for today. I will see you guys tomorrow. I believe tomorrow. Yeah, we'll see you guys tomorrow. All right. Have a good rest of your day, guys. See you soon.